Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie if you're new here, and today I'm going to go through my pregnancy journey. If you haven't already, if you don't understand kind of like what's gone on, I did a I'm back video before this one, so it might be worth just giving that a watch. But basically I took just over a year out of not filming any YouTube videos or posting anything, and there was multiple reasons for that really, so they're all listed in that video. So if you want to go and give that a watch, that's absolutely fine, but if not, I will be talking you through my pregnancy journey. I'm currently 4.5 months postpartum, and yeah, it's been a bit of a year. So basically I'm just gonna today talk you through how I found pregnancy, how I found all the different trimesters, and also I might dip in a little bit to the 4th trimester, or I might do kind of like a dedicated video for that, because yeah, that's a lot in itself. So yeah, before the video starts, if you would give this video a big thumbs up, that would really help to support my channel. I will hopefully be uploading videos every week, but just tick that little notification bell just in case, so you get notified when I upload a new video. And if you could subscribe to my channel, I would be forever grateful that you joined this crazy family here. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first of all, finding out I was pregnant. So we were actually really lucky. I know, extremely lucky. We got pregnant quite quickly. So it was a really nice surprise. But yes, I started feeling kind of like dizzy and nauseous. I was really bloated all the time, and for me, kind of like the bloatedness isn't kind of like an issue, because I have kind of IBS, so sometimes some foods can set me off and I can bloat quite easily anyway. So that didn't really faze me. I was bloated, but then also with the dizziness and the nausea, I don't really get nauseous unless I'm actually going to be physically sick. But I was never physically sick. I was just constantly nauseous, and extremely dizzy, to the point where I kind of couldn't focus on one thing for too long, because it would just start like spinning. And I thought, that's really odd, because I don't really get dizzy, I don't really get nauseous. So I was like, right, something's kind of off. So I took a few pregnancy tests over a couple of weeks actually, and they were all negative. And I thought, right, okay, well, they're saying that I'm not pregnant, so I can't be pregnant. So I kind of like carried on with my life, and I was still nauseous, still dizzy, still really increasingly bloated, and bloated all the time as well, like waking up bloated. And I thought, well, that's not normal. Like I don't ever wake up bloated. I normally wake up with quite a flat tummy, and then after I eat the first thing, then I get bloated. So yeah, that wasn't really the norm for me, so it was quite odd. So yeah, I had one pregnancy test left, kind of like in the cupboard from the box. So I woke up early. Bearing in mind, I should say, I took these pregnancy tests a little bit earlier than it said to on the box, because initially I thought I'd bought the early detection ones, which looking back I didn't, so that was my bad. But so it was the first day of when I was supposed to get my period, and I woke up and I thought, I'm just gonna take one, like I'm just gonna take this last one, you know, it's probably gonna say it's negative anyway. So it was about 7 in the morning, and I took this pregnancy test, and like straight away, boom, both lines. Like I was like, like, what the heck? Like, I've took 5 tests before now and they've all come back negative. I think I took one 2 days prior and that one came back negative. And I was just like completely shocked, but obviously really, really happy. But yeah, just in total shock. Like, I couldn't believe that like we'd actually managed it. Because you hear so many stories of how difficult, you know, how difficult some couples find it, and you just never know. Like with your first one, you just never know how long it's going to take you. All the statistics say it's going to take you 6 months to try for your first baby. And I was like, okay, well, we'll try, and if we, you know, we won't put any pressure on ourselves, it's fine. What will be will be. And yeah, we were extremely lucky to get pregnant very early on, very quickly. So yeah, I actually found out I was pregnant when I was 6 weeks. I don't know if that's early or late to find out you're pregnant, I'm not sure. But I was 6 weeks pregnant, so they were kind of like my first symptoms. So looking back, you know, dizziness, nausea, extreme bloating. I was also really, really tired during the first trimester. Like, I'm not a nap person. Like, I never take daytime naps ever, unless I'm really, really ill, and then I struggle to actually fall asleep. I will just kind of like lie in bed. But I napped every day, like in my lunch break. Every day without fail, I had a lunchtime nap, and it's ridiculous. Like the fatigue, it just knocked me down. Like, I don't know if that's a common symptom. Like, I know people get tired, but like I could not keep my eyes open. Sometimes it got to the point at the end of a working day, I finished work at like 5:30, but at like 4:30 I'd be sat at my desk like nodding off, and it's just great. I've never known tiredness like it. I even say that now, 4 months in. I've never known tiredness like it. It just hit you. You could feel absolutely fine, and then you just like have to lie down, have to go to sleep. So that was another one that kind of like hit me quite hard in the first trimester. And when I go back to nausea, when I say I was nauseous, I was nauseous all the time, and there was no kind of relief of being sick type thing. So there was never kind of like, you know, like sometimes when you've had a few too many and you lie down and the room spins and you feel nauseous, but then you are sick. There was never that kind of release to make me feel better. The only thing that would stop me feeling nauseous was if I ate, which kind of like cancels itself out really, but if I ate something, then the nausea would go. So I basically just spent my life in the first trimester just snacking all the time. So yeah, snacks were my friend first trimester. So at 9 weeks, we actually went for a private scan, because during the time of my first trimester, your scan with the NHS and with your midwife service, John wouldn't have been able to come into the scan with me, and because it's our first baby and it was the first scan, just wanted to make sure everything was okay. And I have anxiety anyway, so I didn't want to go through it on my own, kind of like seeing the baby for the first time, and seeing what was going on. Excuse me. So we paid for a private scan so that John could come and kind of like check everything was okay. And yeah, it was a really, really good experience. I don't think I quite fully believed anything was happening until I saw it on the screen, and I saw this little tiny little baby on the screen. So as soon as I saw that, I was kind of, there was a relief that kind of came over me, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not just like burger and chips that are in my tummy making it bigger, it is actually a baby. So yeah, that was really nice to be able to share that experience as well with John, because if we hadn't have done that, I would have had to have gone through that on my own, and he would have missed out as well, which obviously I understand. It was COVID times. We're still not quite out of the woods yet, but yeah, it was just really nice to kind of like have that support there during that first scan. I had my 12-week scan with the NHS. They also confirmed the due date, which they confirmed as the 12th of October, was my estimated due date, I should say, not confirmed, estimated due date was the 12th of October. And yeah, I also had the 12-week blood test that they offer, which will test for things like Down syndrome, is it Patau's, and a few other kind of chromosomal disorders. So I had that blood test done as well at 12 weeks, because the blood test combined with the measurements of the fetus from that scan would be able to detect anything early on, or potentially, they never say it's absolute, but potentially detect anything, or your chances of developing and having a baby with a chromosomal disorder. So I had that blood test done at 12 weeks as well, and I also had my whooping cough vaccination at 12 weeks, I think, if I remember. Might be a bit later. But yes, so in pregnancy it's advised that you have a whooping cough vaccination, because it's not a live vaccination, but it does travel through the placenta to your baby to give them some immunity against whooping cough once they are born, because they can't have that jab until they're 12 or 16 week jabs when they're born. So it kind of gives them just like a little blanket of protection through you, basically. So I had that as well. Basically anything that I was advised by my midwife, because I luckily knew my midwife before she was kind of assigned to me, because I grew up with her daughters, and we all used to dance together, so I knew my midwife very well since I was about 5 years old. So anything that she advised, and I really took it on board, but also did my research, you know. Oh, cravings. My cravings weren't, if I don't eat this, like, I'm gonna die, basically, or I'm gonna like pass out. And that's what I thought cravings, like everyone describes cravings as like, oh my god, if I don't eat this like celery stick, I'm gonna pass out or I'm gonna die. But yeah, they weren't like that. It was more like, if I don't eat this thing that I really want to eat, I'm not going to be satisfied, and I'm going to be thinking about it for the rest of the day and all night and the whole of the next day if I don't get it. So it was so it was like, yeah, that was the feeling, basically. So my cravings first trimester was basically anything potato based. So yeah, anything potato based, so chips, crisps, jacket potatoes, roasters, mashed potato, gnocchi pasta, which is obviously potato based. Yeah, anything potato based, basically. And with the fact I was like snacking because of the nausea, crisps were just my friend. Like I could have absolutely smashed a 12 bag of crisps in a day. I didn't, but I could have. Yeah, so potatoes was my main craving, and then also orange Fanta, which I'm not really a big fizzy drink kind of gal. So yeah, orange Fanta was top drink choice for me. I also went completely completely off tea and coffee. Anyone that knows me knows that I can't do anything in the day without my cup of coffee in the morning, and cups of tea are life. Like I easily have like 2 cups of coffee in the morning, like strong black coffee, and then I will drink probably about 6 cups of tea. It's disgusting really, the amount of caffeine that I have. But I didn't have any caffeine in pregnancy, just so you know, because you're not meant to. So yeah, I completely went off tea and coffee, which was a shock to everyone who knows me. Second trimester started with, was second trimester the growth scan? Yes. So I had a growth scan second trimester because my bump was measuring very, very big, kind of like off the chart. It was measuring, so they sent me for a growth scan and I got one the next day. When they did the scan, they measure the bub to make sure that it's measuring kind of like on the week scales, and he was measuring fine. He was measuring in like the 75th centile, and it goes up to 97th centile, I think. So he was measuring on the 75th. So they were absolutely happy with him. He was fine. It was just my bump that was really big. The fluid around the baby was fine. There was no excess fluid. It was just like, I'm 5'1", I've got a really short torso, so he's got nowhere to go, kind of like but out front really. So yeah, my bump was measuring big, but they are really good at checking everything. So I went for a growth scan, everything was fine. Second trimester, nausea went bye-bye about 14 weeks. So from 14 weeks on, nausea was gone and I was so happy. I had loads more energy. I actually felt like pre-pregnancy Jess. Like I had loads more energy. I started exercising again, because before pregnancy I was exercising kind of like 5 to 7 times a week. So I was exercising again. Obviously I wasn't doing kind of sit-ups, because from your second trimester on they advise you not to do kind of like any core related exercises like crunching movements, things like that. So yeah, I was modifying my workouts. I was still doing weighted workouts because that's what I'd done before, so it's safe for you to do so, obviously as long as you kind of listen to your body. So that's all I did. So I did weighted workouts, and I also started doing a lot more walking. Did some pregnancy yoga, pregnancy Pilates. I found those videos on YouTube, really, really handy. Really good for your mobility, because your body just goes through so much. So I started doing those. I kind of used to do yoga once or twice a week anyway pre-pregnancy, so that was all good. So yeah, I felt amazing. I still had the cravings of potatoes and orange Fanta, but a new craving that came in second trimester was strawberries, and I could easily smash a massive punnet of strawberries in like 15 minutes, easily, like no problem. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was because during my second trimester I was kind of like end of spring coming into summertime, so I don't know whether it was like the hot weather. I just wanted strawberries. I was just, yeah. So it's a bit of a mad combination, like crisps, strawberries and orange Fanta. Like, what the heck? I could also introduce a little bit of tea and coffee back into my diet. Yeah, I started to feel like I could drink tea and coffee again, but I obviously bought decaf tea bags and decaf coffee. And then whenever we went out for coffee, I would always order a decaf. So yeah, it was nice to have that little bit of coffee. I mean, they were very weak coffees, I'll be honest. I still couldn't quite stomach strong coffee or strong tea, so they were still very weak, but it was nice to try and like get a little bit of my like routine back. Like I got up, had my little coffee, started my day. It was nice. So yeah, that was a good one. We then had our 20-week scan, which is your anomaly scan, so they can make sure baby's developing okay, and you can also find out the sex of your baby at that scan, which we did. So yeah, we found out the sex of the baby on that scan as well, and John could actually come to that scan at that point. So it was that point in COVID where they were allowing you to have your partner in at the scan with you, but he did have to wait outside of the hospital, and then when I got called in for the scan, I would give him a call outside and say, okay, you can come in. And every time before he came into the hospital, the day before or the morning of, he'd have to do a lateral flow test and have the email or text from the NHS to say it was a negative test. Obviously, if he had a positive lateral flow test, then he would have to not come in to the scan, basically. Yeah, it was a really nice moment actually to find out the sex of the baby together. And yeah, it was just a great day. And then after we had that scan, we then drove to Devon for a week on a family holiday. So yeah, that was really nice. It was a bit of a long slog, but yeah, that was really nice, and it made the journey a bit nicer as well, because we could kind of talk about the baby and kind of like nursery ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, that was lovely. I also had, towards the end of the second trimester, just creeping into the third trimester, I also had another growth scan, because again my bump was measuring really big. So to be on the safe side, if your bump is measuring really big or really small, they will just refer you for a scan. So yeah, I went back for another scan, and again everything was fine. He was still measuring along the 75th percentile, so that seemed to be his average. It was just that my bump was averaging way above the lines. So yeah, that was a fun time. But it's quite nice because I got to see the baby a few extra times than what you normally would, so that was really nice. Third trimester, what no one tells you is third trimester feels exactly like first trimester, except you're the size of an elephant in my case. Yeah, third trimester, the tiredness, the fatigue was back, man. Like, I've never, I was so tired. And it was kind of like halfway through second trimester into third trimester, I kind of like wasn't sleeping through the night because I was so uncomfortable. I'd have to get up to pee like 5 times a night. And yeah, you just had a really restless night's sleep. And I don't think that helped coming into the third trimester with your body kind of doing everything it was doing. It was growing human. You were having broken night's sleep, and yeah, I was just knackered. I was knackered, man. There was nothing I could do to kind of get rid of that tired feeling. It was something else. I'll give you that. I also struggled third trimester, quite early on in third trimester, with round ligament pain. So that's where you get pain like right round your lower abdomen, where like everything is stretching, like. And third trimester, I was pretty big at the start of the third trimester. So everything was kind of like stretched anyway. So round ligament pain was kind of like, it was quite bad. My hips also decided to go really loose. So your pelvis starts to kind of like prepare itself for labour during the third trimester. So kind of everything in your pelvis area and your hips and things get like, the ligaments get super loose, ready for everything to kind of like stretch and allow the baby through. So yeah, my hips I found were like really sore, and yeah, I didn't feel very stable in my hips. My knees, knee pain, oh boy, I'm still struggling with my knees now, just because I have gained weight during pregnancy. So yeah, my knees, I think with the extra weight, so I had all the weight from the bump, and then that was putting pressure into my hips, which were already loosening up anyway for birth, and then the excess weight that I was carrying anyway from pregnancy and all the water retention, all the fluid around the baby was kind of like pushing down on my knees. So my knees are absolutely knackered. So I'm really working on conditioning those, trying to strengthen kind of like my leg muscles. And then my ankles and feet started to get swollen in the third trimester. So third trimester, my ankles and my feet, I basically, from the end of July through to when I gave birth, I wore my Birkenstock sandals because that was the only thing I could get on my feet. So even when it was getting really, really cold, during the end of my pregnancy, I couldn't put my boots on, I couldn't put my wellies on, I couldn't put trainers on. So I was just wearing Birkenstocks, so everyone was looking at me like I was a mad woman. But I just couldn't fit my feet into shoes. Like it was horrible. So yeah, my ankles and my feet were really swollen. I got out of breath really easily as well. So I think because everything obviously like pushes up like into your body, your lung capacity gets a lot smaller. So I was getting so out of breath so easily. And yeah, like the smallest things were kind of like making me really, really out of breath, really tired, really exhausted. By this time, the extension was still kind of happening during the third trimester, which was a bit of a pain because it started at the start of May. So our house renovation, the extension I'm actually in now, and I'll do a whole video showing you it when it's finished. But that kind of went on from May until the start of October. So I think everything got finished a week before my due date, which was crazy. So yeah, once everything was done with the extension, we could then move everything upstairs, back downstairs, and then we could start the nursery. So I think it was like, yeah, like a week before my due date, we were putting wallpaper up in the nursery. Thankfully, there was already a wardrobe and a chest of drawers in there anyway, so they didn't need to be built. They just needed a bit of a wipe down. We built the cot. Yeah, like I had everything ready, but it was just like kind of like that last week was like go, go, go. And it was just carnage. Like, I don't know how I didn't lose my mind in the last trimester. I don't know how. But yeah, we got the nursery done and it was fine. I sorted everything away, put all his clothes in there, ready for like when he came home. Yeah, we built the snooze pod, which was like the next to me kind of like bed for in our room. I got all the baby's bottles ready, and yeah, we kind of did that like a week before my due date. And yeah, 40 weeks came and due date came, no sign of the baby, no sign of going into labour, I had like a few tightenings, but I'd been having like tightenings for a few weeks, and I was like, okay, it's fine, it's gonna happen. There's no way I'm gonna go over, it's fine. And yeah, due date came, nothing. So I had an appointment with my midwife scheduled in anyway, and she was kind of happy. She checked my blood pressure and it was a tiny bit high, but nothing to worry about. My feet and ankles were still swollen, but they didn't seem to have any issues, thinking that I may have preeclampsia because of high blood pressure and swelling in the body. is kind of like a sign of preeclampsia, but they were quite happy. My urine didn't have anything in it that would kind of indicate that, so yeah, they were happy. So they said, oh, we'll book you in for a week today, so when you're 41 weeks, but you know, we won't see you, like everything will be fine, we won't see you. So I went home after my 40-week appointment. I drank raspberry leaf tea, I had hot curries, I bounced on my birthing ball, I did lots of walking. So even though I was the size of a house, I really struggled walking, like from about 37 weeks. It was more of like a shuffle and a waddle. Really struggled walking, but I was still taking the dog out on 2 walks a day. So I would go out in the morning, and then John and I would go out in the evening when he got home from work. And I was still doing those walks even at 41 weeks. So people in our village would just see me at like 41 weeks being like, you still not had the baby? Like, no. Do I look like I've had the baby? Also, the amount of people that text you after your due date constantly asking if you've had the baby is so annoying. I've never known anger like it. And you just want to tell them to bugger off, but you can't, because they just want to know if the baby's here. But then I will tell you if the baby's here, or maybe I'm in labour. Like, don't text someone, anyone out there, if you have a pregnant friend or family member, do not, I repeat, do not message them, text them after their due date or on their due date saying, is the baby here yet? Because in their mind, they will be telling you to fuck off. Yeah, don't do it. This is a public service announcement. Do not message friends or family who are due to have a baby asking them if the baby is here. They will tell you when the baby has arrived. Okay? Just gonna say it. People will want to scream and shout about when their baby's here, so they will tell you when the baby has arrived. Not a problem. Just don't ask, because there's nothing more annoying than being over your due date because you're angry as enough anyway, that you're over your due date and you feel uncomfortable and you're irritated, and then you've got text after text after text after text of people saying, have you had the baby yet? Oh, can I see the baby? No. So yeah, don't do that. I had multiple text messages, and all of my friends that were pregnant at the same time as me, and some that were due after me, were having their babies, and I was still pregnant. So it was so annoying. So yeah, so I did all the things. I ate loads of pineapple, I had raspberry leaf tea, I bounced on a birthing ball, I had a really spicy curry. Yeah, nothing worked. So off I went to my 41 weeks appointment. I was actually booked in for a stretch and sweep, or a membrane sweep. It's a form of induction, but at that point I was just like, just get the baby out. I have had enough. So yeah, the midwife attempted, yes, you heard that right, attempted the stretch and sweep. It was extremely uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. For me personally, it was extremely uncomfortable. A lot of people can have them done and just be on the merry way, not even know anything happened, but for me, it was extremely painful. And the midwife said the reason for that was it was actually failed. She couldn't do the stretch and sweep because my cervix was still very far back and closed. So she advised me again, keep bouncing on the birthing ball, going on walks, all that sort of stuff. So I carried on, and then I was booked in to the hospital at 42 plus 1 weeks. Basically, they have you in and you go on the monitor, and you have, do you have another scan? I think you have another scan. And you go on the heart monitor for the baby just to check kind of like everything's okay. So yeah, for that week I basically did nothing but walk, bounce on a birthing ball and eat anything spicy I could get my hands on. drank gallons of raspberry leaf tea. Yeah, and off I went to the hospital at 42+1. Hooked up to the machine. Every midwife that I saw was like, that baby's happy in there. Which isn't what you want to hear really, because you just want the baby to be happy outside. Yeah, so everything was fine with the monitoring, everything was fine with the scan, but I did have high blood pressure and my ankles and my lower legs were really swollen. So but I had nothing in my urine again, so they weren't concerned it was preeclampsia. So they basically then booked me in for an induction if I was happy to have one, which at this point, nothing was happening. So I was trying everything, nothing was happening. So I booked in for an induction on the Sunday, which would have made me 42+3, I think. Maybe? I don't know. But I was over 42 weeks anyway. Yeah, so I went home, kind of got everything ready because I knew that if it didn't happen before then I was going in and I was potentially having a baby on the Sunday. So we went to the hospital on the Sunday for the induction, and we waited 6 hours and then we got sent home for the night because the maternity ward was too busy. So they had no midwives free, because you have you have one midwife with you all the time, and then you have kind of like doctors, consultants and specialists and coming in kind of like just to check everything's okay. So yeah, there was no dedicated midwife for me, so they couldn't induce me until the Monday. It was a bit of a nightmare. So they said we could keep you here, but you'd be more comfortable at home. So we went back home. I had another night at home and we went back again at 10 o'clock on the Monday. And that is where I'm going to leave you because I'm going to do a labour and birth video. So yeah, overall pregnancy was a very positive experience. Obviously it does have its downsides, kind of like the aches and pains. Don't believe all like the glamorizing that people do, especially on like Instagram and YouTube. Like, yikes guys, come on, be like, you're on YouTube to be like real with people, or at least I am. But yeah, if people would have told me how like physically challenging pregnancy was, as well as mentally challenging, because you do have those days as well where you think like, what, I can't do this, like this is like, I was like second trimester going, this is hard, like I can't do this, like, and somehow you're like, well, I'm in it now. I'm in it now, I've got to do it. So you need to book up your ideas and change your mindset, and like it's not kind of like all the like roses and sunshine and everything that everyone kind of makes it out for it to be. Like, it's not all kind of like pregnancy photo shoots and, oh look how amazing I look, because I'll be honest, in my third trimester, if anyone pointed a camera at me, I would have turned into like a she-devil and like scratched their eyes out, because Christ, I looked like an elephant. Like, I will pop some pregnancy like bump updates up on the screen kind of like after I've finished, just so you can kind of see how big I got in the end. But yeah, it was a great experience, but it was tough. So yeah, don't just believe what everyone tells you, that like it's all amazing and there's no issues and like everything goes swimmingly, because the reality is it never does. There's always something for somebody, and if you are one of those really lucky people that you had a pregnancy that was like amazing and just like a ride, then that's really good for you. I'm really happy for you. But yeah, mine wasn't quite like that. And I'm sure a lot of other people's aren't like that either. Mine wasn't by far not the worst pregnancy at all. Obviously, I'm very lucky that the baby was healthy and happy. But yeah, just go into it with an open mind and have your own experience. Don't judge your experience against what other people are showing you on social media, because they're only showing you the best bits. They're not showing you when they're breaking down in tears, when they feel like they can't do it. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I think I said this at the beginning, but please give it a big thumbs up, tick the notification bell, and also subscribe to my channel. That would be amazing. I will pop some pictures now to finish of my bump updates during pregnancy. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you super soon. Bye.